Hi everyone, I'm Rocco from Ivy Masters Learning Center, and today I'll be talking about how I scored a perfect 1600 on my SAT. I'll go over what I did personally to prepare, as well as general strategies that can help any student achieve their best possible score. I took the SAT in December of 2019, meaning that I got a perfect score on my first try. While high-level students may be able to achieve such a score on their first try, it's not always doable, and that's okay. What I'm about to discuss is my personal mindset when preparing for the test, but it by no means applies to the average student or even the average high-level student. Firstly, I went into the test with a pretty solid foundation in math, which greatly aided me on sections 3 and 4. I was basically at the point where maybe a handful of problems would make me second guess myself. Other than that, I knew that my main focus would have to be placed on sections 1 and 2. For section 2, I didn't memorize any grammar rules that I didn't already know intuitively. I essentially just used the pick the answer that sounds the least awkward strategy for the majority of the questions. However, I did learn that a colon requires a complete sentence before, which made those types of problems a lot less ambiguous. Finally, section 1 was probably my weakest area going into the test because it's the least straightforward of all the sections. I was decent at discerning the meanings of passages from each genre, but I often found myself stuck between two answers that seemed correct. To get around this issue, the key thing for me was practice, practice, practice. By reading enough of the passages and answering enough of the multiple choice, I got used to the types of questions I would see on the real thing. However, I didn't memorize any particular strategy, and I often didn't notate passages as heavily as I could have. Now I'd like to discuss what I think is best for students aiming for a perfect score, or a very high score, and the things I wish I had known going into the test. While I did pull through with the 1600, I didn't feel like I had it in the bag when I initially completed the test. This means that there were things I could have done to make myself even more prepared for the test, and these strategies apply to all students. First of all, practice is absolutely essential. Taking a practice test on a regular basis will make you more comfortable with the test and therefore less stressed on test day. You want to simulate testing conditions as much as possible, which means taking the test in one sitting in a room with no distractions. This isn't always doable in some households, and if this is the case for you, I'd recommend taking practice tests in a quiet public place like a library or at the weekly sessions offered by Ivy Masters. Simulating testing conditions also means no phone and no notes. You won't have those things on test day, so get used to not having them with you. Using your phone as a timer is okay, but I'd highly recommend getting a simple watch to help you pace yourself and keep track of time. There's nothing worse than a panic attack when the 5 minutes left announcement comes completely out of nowhere. Going into specifics with each section, I believe that taking notes and underlining on section 1 is absolutely key to maximizing your score. While it's certainly possible to get by without doing this, I really don't recommend it. Notating will simply make the trickier passages more bearable. It's common to read through a dense passage and retain little to none of the key ideas necessary to answer the questions. This can obviously be quite problematic, so taking the time to underline main ideas, circle words you don't understand, and jot down summary statements can aid you tremendously. Next, looking at section 2, there are two things I recommend. First, brush up on any rules or topics that you are unfamiliar with. If you aren't sure what those things are, take a practice test and make a note of which questions you get wrong. If you have no idea how to use a semicolon, learn how to use a semicolon. If you have no idea how to choose a pronoun properly, learn about pronoun usage. The SAT will often repeat the same topics on each test, so once you master a grammar topic, you should be set for any type of questions surrounding that topic. My second piece of advice for question 2 is to read the passages. It might seem more efficient to jump around between the underlined portions, but knowing the context of a passage can make confusing questions easier to solve. The whole point of grammar is to communicate ideas effectively, so if you can discern the idea the author is trying to communicate, you already have a leg up on the problem you're trying to solve. Finally, I'll give some advice for sections 3 and 4, which are the no calculator and calculator math sections, respectively. Sometimes there are questions that you simply cannot answer without knowing the topic being tested. For instance, if you don't know what the quadratic formula is, then you won't be able to answer a question that requires the use of the quadratic formula. However, there are often multiple ways to solve a math problem, and you shouldn't count yourself out if a problem looks initially challenging. For example, a multiple choice problem that involves long division of polynomials may be solvable by just picking numbers for variables and using the given answer choices. No knowledge of long division polynomials is required. Thus, while it is definitely beneficial to brush up on the math topics you aren't confident with, you shouldn't throw your hands up in defeat the second you see a problem you think you can't solve. As a final note, the calculator section, section 4, of the SAT does not necessarily require the use of a calculator to solve most problems. However, getting to know your calculator can be handy in a pinch, especially if your calculator has a graphing feature. Most calculators also have the ability to convert decimals to fractions, which can be a real time saver for some problems. In short, use the features of your calculator to your advantage. With that, I'd like to wrap up my talk here by saying that the SAT is not the kind of test you can just cram for the night before and end up with a perfect score. Although the types of questions you see will be similar across different tests, regular practice is key to being successful on test day. As I stated earlier, getting comfortable with the test through practice is the best thing you can do to boost your confidence when taking the real thing. At the same time, however, be sure that you are shooting for a goal that is tailored to your abilities, not just a random high score, like perhaps a 1600, that seems nice. If you found this video helpful, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with others you think may benefit. My name is Rocco from Ivy Masters Learning Center. Have a great day.